Since I've woken up this morning, all I've been seeing is like stuff on my TikTok and news headings like this. And so I just wanted to share a little bit of like an astrological insight. I am still very new to astrology, even though I've been doing it for years and I do private readings. I still feel like I've become really good with astrology, but I still consider myself as quite new. I think I've been doing it since about 2020. So this is my kind of 5th year, but I'm always still learning, always still growing with astrology. But from my point of view, and let me know if you're an astrologer or into astrology, what you kind of see based on the astrology and all this stuff playing out. So firstly, basically the US only just finished their Pluto return. And that was crazy. That was a big highlight for 2024. Like it was in the US Sibley charts, second house of like their money and resources and what they value. So this was a huge monumental transformation for the US around money and their resources. And a lot of people have been really worried about the economy, not just in the US, but worldwide, because what happens there with the US dollar predominantly being the the most common currency and the strongest around the world, is that a lot of us are watching, what's happening and what's going on because, the US has been the strongest in the regards to the economy for such a long time. And we know what happens in the US with money and the economy will happen and have a flow-on impact worldwide. And so it's no surprise, and Trump did speak about this before he was even elected and kind of coming up to it, that he was going to impose tariffs and that there might be some new laws and regulations around people coming into America, especially if they haven't done it the right way. And so none of this is like surprising, but I think because of the events and since he's become, obviously the new leader again of the US, he is the president, things have just kind of gotten progressively worse because he's been doing, all these policy and law and legal changes like constantly, one after the other. Like I don't think he's kind of stopped. Like since he's come into the office, boom, 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 it's just been bang, bang, bang. And I did say in my predictions for like the 2025 energy that for the US, I did see a really big event around a new moon or a full moon, because like what I was kind of intuitively getting was like a vision of like kind of like the moon, and it was looking quite full and just like complete and utter chaos in like a courtroom or in a legal situation. It looked like everybody was really frustrated and mad, and that was just like intuitively what I was getting. And so I had a feeling that in 2025 there was going to be a massive crisis or event that caused a lot of frustration and anger in the courtroom and the legal system. And I knew it was kind of going to be linked to a pivotal new moon or full moon. I was seeing the full moon, but again, like that's just the vision of the moon. So it could also be linked to a new moon. And we did just have the last Aries new moon eclipse. And Aries is very much going to bring out that anger, that frustration, that passion, right? And then this month of April has so much going on with the astrology as well. Like we still have both the planets retrograde. They've just gone from Aries and coming back into Pisces, both Venus and Mercury. So again, bringing up themes of those Aries type, events. And then we have the Libra full moon. And again, that Libra energy brings up themes of like peace and harmony and trying to find a solution and negotiation, especially through the legal system, through courts. So I'm not surprised that we're seeing a lot of this energy kind of play out. And as we get closer to that full moon in Libra, I think there's going to be a lot of legal action, a lot of things happening in the courtrooms because that is very much like the justice system, the symbol of peace and harmony and trying to find balance. Cooperation, that kind of energy. And then towards the end of the April, we have that Taurus new moon squaring Mars and Pluto. So Mars is actually in Leo at the very, very early degrees, and Pluto is in the very early degrees of Aquarius. And they both square this Taurus new moon that's coming up. So that definitely has me kind of keeping an eye on things because Pluto and Mars both sending squares, which is tension and conflict. Mars is the planet of aggression and, WAR and conflicts. And then Pluto like explodes things. It's very volcanic, explosive. And new moons are going to bring in that energy of like a new beginning for the next few months. And Taurus energy really has me thinking about money, food, stability. So it's kind of bringing in the energy of like the tariffs and all that kind of stuff, I think, and the economy and the money and the banks, what's happening with the money, that kind of energy. I know a lot of people are talking about a recession and they've got kind of fears and they're a bit worried about that happening, especially because of what's happening in the US. So we'll have to see how this all unfolds in April, but I think this is like the build up from like last month and then coming into this month. And not to forget that in April, we also have the last of the Pluto opposite Mars energy, and this will be in Aquarius and Leo. So that's going to be quite pivotal globally. I have done more videos on that, so definitely check that out. Have a look through my old videos and find that one. But also not forgetting that Pluto in Aquarius brings that energy of people, you know, potentially protesting, being quite rebellious, standing up for their rights, putting a very big lens on humanity. And so I kind of already knew with Pluto being in Aquarius for the next like 18 to 20 years that we were going to see a lot of this energy, and it's going to happen, you know, this is a 18 to 20 year cycle with Pluto in Aquarius, so we're going to see a lot of these themes coming up in regards to like humanity throughout, you know, the years. But because this is like the first proper year that we're going to have Pluto in Aquarius for the whole year, we had a little bit of a preview last year in 2024, but this year we're going to see a lot of people kind of protesting, you know, kind of standing up for themselves, trying to kind of fight for fairness and freedom. Revolutions, that kind of energy, breaking free. And then if we look at Trump's chart, I know this is for the end of the month, but there's a lot going on. The Mars-Pluto opposition that's happening, like the transiting Mars and transiting Pluto opposition is happening in his Leo first house with Mars being there and his Aquarius 7th house with Pluto being there. So this energy is really highlighting him and who he is as a person and potentially putting him in danger physically. So this could be like a health issue coming up or like an attack because it is Mars in the first house. He has had a lot of attempts before. And I did predict those. I was talking about it for a few months before the first one happened, and then a few days or a day before the first attempt happened. And then I did already say before the first attempt even happened that there would be multiple events. And this is because Uranus is sitting on his MC, conjunct the asteroid Agal. Oh my gosh, words. Mercury, oh my God. Conjunct the asteroid Agal. So this is very much like off with the head kind of energy. It's very dangerous. But then the North Node and South Node are also squaring his natal sun in Gemini, showing that there are destined events that are going to happen around his physical body, especially when he is speaking or being public with the audience. You know, think about like any kind of gatherings, meetings, media events. And the moon and Jupiter on this day are very close to his natal sun, and Uranus there as well, and the North Node. So that's very, very potent energy. Jupiter shows that he's kind of being highlighted. There's something really big going on there around his sun. His energy, his life force, his vitality, how he shines, basically. And it's through Gemini, the audience, that kind of energy. Like the 11th house is your friendships, your groups, the audience, that sort of thing. Your audience when you're a public figure is obviously like the people, the masses. And he still has Saturn in his 8th house of like endings, if you know what I mean. Do your research on the 8th house. And then Neptune and Venus right at the very early degrees of his 9th house, but it's still kind of that energy is playing into the 8th house a little bit. Like there's a lot in that Aries house for him. Showing issues with foreign people, foreign countries, foreign leaders, that sort of energy. And then Pluto being in the 7th house of open enemies. Just saying. There's just so much to unpack here with this chart, but I'll let you guys kind of mull over that. But I think based on Trump's chart, especially moving into the end of April and kind of the energy that's happening now, it looks a little bit troublesome. I can see why the public and the American people might be a little bit frustrated right now. And I'm Australian, I'm not American. I am very much one of those people that won't really have a strong opinion unless I know all the facts and I'm well educated on a situation. So I'm just sharing this through the lens of astrology. I am not saying that I support Trump or I don't. And I don't really follow American politics because I'm Australian. So this is just me trying to be very unbiased and just tell you like the astrology of what's playing out and what I kind of see.